Hi everybody, welcome to our webinar on how to feel more confident and prepared at job fairs. Welcome everyone. I'm just going to give everyone a couple of minutes just to kind of get into the room, get themselves settled. I hope you've all managed to access the link, which is great. I think unfortunately the link has gone to some people's junk folders this morning, but we are recording this, so everybody will receive a copy of the recording later. So just in terms of introductions, if you've not met me before, I'm Claire. I'm the founder of Careerology, and we have Jo here today. Jo is our in-work support lead at Careerology.
Hi, everyone.
So Jo's just waving there. So Jo is going to turn her camera off in a moment, and she's just going to be here in the background. So it's going to be me talking today on this webinar, but Jo will be here in the background. She's going to keep an eye on the chat because I cannot deliver the webinar and keep an eye on the chat at the same time. I know some people can, but I find that very difficult to do. So Jo is keeping an eye on it just to check if you have any problems, any questions, then please put that in the chat and Jo will respond. Right, just going to check. Let's see, we've got a few people here. There's quite a lot of people signed up to this webinar, but it might be that people are waiting to watch the recording later, which is obviously absolutely fine. So let's get started. So just in terms of a welcome, so welcome to the webinar. Just in case you're wondering, there are no microphones, so you won't be able to talk during this webinar, okay? And we've done that just to minimize disruptions. And there's also no camera. You might have noticed that as well. So you're not on camera. The only person you should see is me talking. So you can sit back, relax. Nobody can see you at all. So that's the camera's been disabled there. Please do ask questions in the chat throughout the webinar. So I want to make this as interactive as possible. I've got quite a few slides to go through, but if there's anything that doesn't make sense, you want clarification on, you have any questions, then please put those in the chat. And what we'll do, we won't respond to them straight away because that can be quite disruptive, because I think sometimes when you're listening to something but you're reading something at the same time, we don't want that. So what we'll do is put all of your questions in the chat. Then when we get to the end, when we've got a few minutes at the end, we will go through all of the questions and we will answer them then in a Q&A at the very end of the session. And if we run out of time and we don't get a chance to answer all the questions, then I will put the answers in an email to you all later. So don't be afraid to ask questions in this webinar. Just a reminder, you should be aware of this already because the notification came up, but it is being recorded. This webinar is being recorded and it will be shared with people, okay? Now, anything you put in the chat will not be recorded or shared, so don't worry about that, but the recording itself will be sent out to everybody who's registered for this webinar later on today. Okay, so what we're going to cover, we are going to cover three things in this webinar, okay? First of all, we're going to talk about what you need to do before attending a job fair. Then we're going to talk about actually at the job fair, some tips on how to get the most out of your time at a job fair. And then we're going to finish off with after the job fair, what to do after you've been to a job fair. Now, I know quite a few of you have signed up to this webinar because you are planning to go to the Southwark Works job fair next week, I believe. Now, this would be perfect timing because you've got a week to go. So that gives you plenty of time to prepare for that job fair. But this webinar is not just specific to that Southwark Works job fair. This webinar is basically, it could be useful for any type of job fair that you might go to in the future, no matter how big or how small. The content is not related to the Southwark Works job fair. It's just a general webinar on how to get the most out of job fairs, really. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So it looks like we've had a few more people join us. Welcome. Hope you're all okay. It's great to see everybody here today. Okay, so let's get started before the job fair, okay? So all of the things that you need to do before going to a job fair. And it's funny because I think a lot of people don't prepare at all before they go to a job fair. And maybe you were thinking of just turning up next week to the Southwark Works job fair and not doing any preparation. And you wouldn't be alone, because lots of people do that. Lots of people go, okay, well, I'm just going to book myself onto this job fair. I'm going to go along and just see what it's like. And that's fine. But actually, what I find is a lot of people that do that go to the job fair and then go, oh, I wish I'd done some preparation beforehand. So I want to go through with you some tips on what you can do to prepare before the job fair to make sure you get the very best out of it. So the first recommendation is to do your research, okay? Give yourself plenty of time to do some research before you actually attend the job fair. First of all, find out which employers are going to be there. Okay, this is really important. So you might already know who's going to be there. The organisers of the job fair might have already sent you a list of which employers are going to be there. There might be a website that lists them. There might be some sort of brochure that you've received or an email. So have a look at the information that you've been given. If you haven't received any information, then contact the organisers and ask them if they can share with you a list of the employers that are going to be there. So that's really important. You want to know who's going to be at this job fair before you actually go there. Then when you know who's going to be there, I would recommend visiting the websites of those employers to find out who they are. Now, some of them might be big names that you already know. You might know some of those organisations already, but there could be some on there that you've never heard of. So visit their websites, find out what they do, what sort of industry they're in, what sort of jobs they have. And I would really recommend going to the About Us page or the Work for Us page if they have one of those on their website. And that will give you a sense of any job vacancies they might have, or it will give you a sense of the sorts of people that they try to recruit. It might talk about their values, the sorts of people that they're really interested in hiring. So have a good look around their website, see if you can find out some useful information about these organisations before you actually go. The next step I would recommend is to shortlist the top 5 employers that you want to talk to. Now, I don't know how many employers are going to be at the job fair that you're going to. There might be 20 employers, there might be 200 employers. You know, job fairs come in all sorts of sizes. But regardless, I would look through all of the employers that are going to be there and then decide which ones you really want to go and visit, the ones whose stands you want to go and visit and the employers you really want to talk to. Because otherwise you might get there and find yourself really overwhelmed trying to get round too many. You might find that you end up talking to employers that you're not that interested in. There could be big queues for the employers that you are interested in. So make a short list of the ones that you really want to talk to. And then once you've got that short list, see if you could write at least one question to ask each of those employers. Now, a job fair is not just about going there and picking up leaflets and just walking around and, you know, looking at the pretty banners that they've got. It's about actually, it's your chance to actually talk to employers. So think about what you might want to ask them. Now, there might be something that you've seen on their website that's really interested you. Maybe there's some vacancies that they've got that you want to know more about, or maybe you want to know more about career pathways within their organisation. Think about what you want to ask them. And we're going to come to that a little bit later in a bit, thinking about the right sorts of questions to ask. Okay, so do your research. The next step is to prepare your tools, okay? So there's a number of different tools that I would recommend that you could have that will help you at this job fair. The first one is your CV, okay? So make sure that your CV has been updated and you are happy with it before you go along to the job fair. So you might want to print out copies of your CV to take along with you. So that's fine. You don't have to do this, but I would recommend why not? You might not end up giving your CV to anyone, but if an employer asks you to give the CV and you've got it there, then brilliant. So make sure if you are going to print off copies of your CV that obviously it is up to date. If not, and you get into a conversation with an employer and they say to you, oh, could you just email your CV across? You want to have it ready somewhere stored digitally in your email so it's ready and you can email it to the employer straight away. So do make sure that it is up to date. Now, thinking about your CV, you want to make sure that it is tailored to the type of employer. So I always recommend that if you are applying for a job online and you have to submit your CV, you would tailor your CV for every single job that you apply for. So you would look at the job description and you would take out keywords and phrases from that job description and you would make sure that they are highlighted on your CV, preferably at the top of your CV in your personal profile or your skills section. Now, when you're going to a jobs fair, you're not going to be able to tailor your CV to every single employer you're going to talk to, but I would suggest tailoring it to industry. So if you're going to a jobs fair that is all to do with retail, for instance, they're all going to be retailers, you perhaps just need one CV that is tailored towards retail jobs. But if it's a jobs fair that's got lots of different types of employers, so there might be some retail jobs, some hospitality jobs, some admin jobs, all sorts of different jobs there, you might want to consider having a few different versions of your CV. So you've got a retail focused CV, a hospitality focused CV, and then you can give the employer whichever one aligns with the type of work that they are offering. Okay, so have a think about that. And that's why I say really think about your shortlist and who you really want to talk to, because in all honesty, you don't want to be taking like 50 different versions of a CV, but maybe having 2 or 3 different versions would be a good strategy to have. It really depends on your goals here and also the type of jobs fair that it is. Now, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is also up to date. I really do recommend having a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one already, because it's such a good way to connect with employers. And some employers will ask you if you can share your LinkedIn profile with them if you're interested in applying for a job. So do make sure that you have got your LinkedIn profile up to date and that it does correspond with your CV as well, because they might look at both. They might look at your CV and your LinkedIn profile. So you want to make sure they say roughly the same thing. Now, one of the things I would strongly recommend if you do have a LinkedIn profile is to save the QR code for your profile somewhere on your phone. Okay, now your QR code looks something like this. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. It's a little bit small. So if you go onto LinkedIn on your phone and you go into the search bar on your phone, you will see a tiny little QR icon. If you click on that QR icon, basically it comes up with this screen. As you can see there, that's a copy of mine. Okay, so it comes up with my little profile picture and the QR code. Now, the reason why this is really good for job fairs and, to be honest, any sort of networking events is if you save that, just screenshot it onto your phone. When you have a conversation with an employer or someone that you want to connect with, if they say, oh, should we connect on LinkedIn? All you have to do is show them your phone, show them this QR code, and they can scan it with their phone and it instantly shows them your profile. It's so much quicker than saying, oh, my LinkedIn profile address is blah, 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 or giving them your name and then they have to search for you and stuff. It's such a quicker way of doing it. So I definitely recommend doing that. It's just a little tip. I've been to networking events recently and it feels like everybody's doing this now. So yeah, definitely have a go at doing that. The third thing I would recommend is practice your elevator pitch. Now, if you're not sure what an elevator pitch is, maybe you've never heard of this before, basically it's what you would say to somebody if you had a very short space of time and you wanted to explain who you were and make a really strong impression. Now, ideally, it's something that you could say within about 60 seconds, okay? And what your elevator pitch would include is who you are, so quite simply, you know, give them your name, what you do or what you've done. Okay, so if you are working in customer service, then it might be, oh, I'm a customer service professional. Or it might be that you're unemployed, but maybe you want to tell them what you've done in the past. So you might say, I've got 5 years experience working in customer service. Okay, so just tell them either what you do or what you've done. Your USP is your unique selling point, okay? Now, this is the reason why they're going to hire you, okay? You need to give them something about yourself, whether it's the fact that you've got loads of experience, or maybe you transitioned from a different field, but that's actually something that's quite in demand. Maybe you've just completed a course that's really useful that the employer would be really interested in. Whatever it is, think of something that the employer might be impressed with. It's got to be related, obviously, to what the employer is looking for. And then finish it off with telling them what you're looking for. So basically, you know, I'm looking for a job in whatever it is, or I would really like to work for your company. Can you please tell me how I would go about doing that? I'm really looking for an interview. Can you tell me how I can get an interview? Whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, be very specific. So you don't just end it with, this is who I am. It's like, this is who I am and this is what I want, okay? So I would recommend, especially if you've never done this before, it's quite a simple exercise to do, but it can really help to improve your confidence. So have a go at writing down your elevator pitch first of all. Write down, basically use those bullet points to guide you, and write down kind of one sentence for each, and then practice it and keep practicing it until it sounds natural. And then when someone asks you who you are, what you do, then it will just roll off the tongue. You'll just be able to say it. You won't be going, oh, I don't know, you know, you just will sound so much more confident. And just a little tip, elevator pitches are useful in interviews as well. When employers are asking, tell me about yourself, it's a really, really good way to get started with that question as well. So elevator pitch, definitely I would recommend having a go at that. And then think about your questions. What are you going to ask them? So, of course, if you do get chatting to employers, they're probably going to ask you questions about yourself. They're going to want to know why you're talking to them, what your experience is, what, you know, why you want to work for them. But this gives you the opportunity to ask them questions. So, you know, you can find out as much as you possibly can about their organisation, about the jobs that they've got on offer. So one of the things that some people ask is, how much do you pay? I would strongly recommend not asking those sorts of questions, okay? These are not the sorts of questions to ask. You can find that out at a later stage. So yeah, definitely that's a bit of a no-no. But the sorts of questions that would be good to ask is, for instance, ask them what sort of skills or experience they're looking for. Ask them sort of, you know, who would be your ideal candidate? What sort of people are you looking for to, you know, to join your company? Ask them about the job, ask them what a typical day is like working for their organisation. And then most importantly, ask them how you can apply. You know, show them that you're really keen. You know, how can I apply for a job at your company? If they don't have any vacancies, then how can I keep in touch with you to find out about any upcoming opportunities? How can I talk to your HR manager? You know, just be really confident and assertive and ask them these questions. Find out everything you can know that there is to know. Okay, so that's your tools. Okay, so hopefully you're thinking there's quite a lot to prepare here, but quite straightforward, hopefully, not too difficult. Now, one of the things that people get stuck on is what to wear at a job fair. Now, this really is up to you. I always say wear something comfortable. That's probably the most important thing. But at job fairs in general, people expect you to wear something smart and professional. Okay, so it's almost like going for an interview, but not. Okay, so it's not that formal, but there is still a level of formality to it. Now, people sometimes ask, should I wear a business suit? Should I wear an interview suit? It really does depend, I would say. Now, it used to be, I would say, yes, absolutely, wear a suit to a jobs fair. But actually now things are a little bit more relaxed. It really does depend on the industry or the level of formality. I would say if you're not sure, then ask someone you know, ask someone who's going to the jobs fair or someone that's been to one of these job fairs before, or even contact the organisers and say, could you give me some information on the dress code, what we're expected to wear? You know, these organisers will be happy to answer these questions, okay? So don't worry about it too much. One of the things I would say is, if you're in doubt, it's always better to dress up rather than dress down. So if you're really not sure what to wear, wear, like, and you think, oh, I'm not too sure whether to wear an interview suit or not, I'd say go with the interview suit, because I mean, the worst case scenario, you're going to get there and feel a little bit overdressed. However, wearing something smart and formal is going to show employers that you are keen, you are committed, that you know that you're taking this seriously. If you went the other way and you dressed down and you turned up in jeans and flip-flops, then you run the risk then of employers not taking you seriously and them thinking, okay, you obviously don't really care about this. Maybe you've just popped in off the street and it's not really your high priority. These sorts of things actually do matter. And I've, got lots of experience of being on interview panels, and it's interesting how things like that people actually do remember. I've been on interview panels where panel members have gone, can you believe they turned up in trainers, and the person on the interview might have said something really great, but actually the fact that they wore trainers just stuck out. So just, I would say stick with something smart, something professional. And yeah, as I said, make sure you are comfortable. Now, what to take to the jobs fair. So don't just turn up on your own. There are things that you need to take with you. First of all, you're going to need some sort of a bag or a folder. So you're probably going to be picking up pieces of paper throughout the day. There'll be leaflets, maybe there'll be flyers, business cards, all sorts of things that you might pick up from different stands that you're going to. So you're going to need something to carry them in. Do not carry around a plastic bag. It doesn't look good. So make sure you've got some sort of a smart bag with you, or some sort of a folder, some professional type of folder where you can put everything. Now, in some job fairs, especially really large ones, they might actually give you a bag. They might give you a free tote bag, and that can be great because you can walk around and put everything in that bag. But you don't always know, especially with smaller jobs fairs, they might not have those sorts of things available, and you won't know this until you turn up. So I'd say definitely take something along with you so you're prepared. As I said before, you might want to take copies of your CV. You might want to print that off. So make sure that if you have got copies of your CV, that they're not scrunched up in the bottom of your bag. Put them in a folder to keep them nice and neat and make sure you don't spill anything on them. So definitely take copies of your CV if that's what you're planning to do. If you have business cards, then take them along. Not everyone has business cards, and you don't have to have business cards at all. But if you do have them and you want to give them out, then obviously make sure that you've got those with you as well. Make sure that you've got a notepad and a pen. I strongly recommend throughout the day that you take lots of notes, and you can, of course, take notes in your phone. That's what lots of people do. But there's a danger that if you're always on your phone, you're not going to look very engaged, whereas actually it kind of looks better if you're writing on a piece of paper. Okay, so perhaps just take a notepad and pen so you can scribble some notes down, as well as having your phone there as well. Next thing on the list is the phone. Okay, so make sure that you do take a phone with you. A phone can be so useful because you can share contacts with people. There might be, when you're talking to an employer, there might be a job vacancy straight away, and you can apply for it there and then if you've got access to the internet on your phone. All sorts of things. So definitely take it with you, and make sure that it is fully charged. The next thing on the list is actually a charger, because just in case, for whatever reason, you have forgotten to charge your phone, do take a charger along. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to use a charging point, but there might be. So take it along just in case your phone runs out of battery and you need that. Now, thinking about keeping yourself going throughout the day, definitely take a bottle of water with you. I would hope that in most places there is drinking water available, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you have to buy water and you might not have the spare cash on you. So do take a bottle of water with you. Job fairs can be quite dehydrating experiences. It might be hot in the room where it is. You might be walking around quite a lot. So do take a bottle of water with you and stay hydrated throughout. Make sure that you've got some sort of breath mints or something with you. So yeah, I mean, you obviously don't want to have a really great conversation with an employer and then find that, you've got coffee breath, or because you're really hungry or a bit dehydrated, your breath's not smelling that fresh. So do take some breath mints. That's a really top tip, I would say. I would say don't chew gum. I know chewing gum is probably a preference of most people, but don't chew gum because it doesn't look professional. But, you know, just a nice little packet of breath mints is a subtle way to keep your breath fresh. And also take a snack because you don't know how long you're going to be there. It could be a very long day. You don't want to be stuck in that situation where you're really hungry and you have to like nip out and get some food and then you miss something really important. So do take a healthy snack along with you. Obviously nothing that's going to, you know, stain your teeth or anything, but take something with you. So those are my recommendations, what to take with you to the job fair. Okay, I hope that those have been helpful. Now, let's move on to at the job fair. Okay, so when you actually get there, what you're going to do to make best use of your time. So my key point here is be strategic. Okay, don't just turn up and go anywhere. Just be strategic about what you're actually going to do, who you're going to talk to. My first tip is arrive early. Now, if this is an all-day job fair, let's say it starts at 10 in the morning and finishes at 4 p.m., you do not want to be turning up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When you turn up at 3, a lot of the employers are going to be tired. They've been talking to people all day. You might find that some of the employers have left early even. So definitely arrive as early as you possibly can. You're going to find that employers are going to want to talk to you more first thing in the morning. They're going to be really keen to talk to people. So getting there early is really good. It means that you avoid any queues. And it just means that, yeah, you kind of get your pick really of who to go and talk to. So try and get there as early as you can. You might find with some job fairs nowadays, I've seen it's really good. They tend to have like a quiet hour at the beginning. So if there is a quiet hour and you find that you often get overwhelmed when there's lots of noise or lots of people, then definitely try and go along to the quiet hour. Just see not all job fairs do this, but I am starting to see a bit of a trend that they are starting to bring these sorts of things in, which is great, I think. When you get there, you might be given a map. You might be given a brochure, a leaflet or something that tells you where all the different employers are going to be, especially if this is a large job fair in a very big area. There might be like hundreds of different stands and they'll probably all be numbered. So you'll be given some sort of a map to tell you where everyone is. So take some time to have a look at that before you go charging in and walking around. Find out where those key employers are that you really want to talk to. And then plan your route. So think about, you know, okay, who do you want to go and talk to first? Where are they? Who do you want to go and talk to next? Figure out things like where the toilets are and all that kind of stuff. That's all really important. Now, in terms of your route, I would recommend being strategic about who you go to see. Now, I would not start with your number one employer. You know, I said a moment ago about having a short list of your top 5 employers. I would not recommend going to see your number one employer first. What I would recommend is start with number 3 on your list, okay? So start with number 3 because this is an employer that you're keen to meet with, but it's not your top employer. So it gives you a chance to go along, talk to them, kind of warm up a little bit, because sometimes we're a bit nervous, aren't we? Especially if we go to a new place and we're still trying to get the feel of it. So go along to that employer first, have a chat with them, then go along to the employer that you've put as your number 2 employer, okay? Because after talking to your number 3 employer, you're probably thinking, okay, I'm getting the hang of this now. Go and talk to your number 2 employer. And then after that, go and talk to your number 1 employer, because by that point, you are warmed up, you've spoken to a couple of employers, you're probably feeling a lot more confident, you're used to the sorts of questions that they might be asking or the sorts of questions you want to ask them, which means that you will be super confident when you go to talk to your number 1 employer, the one that you really, really want to talk to, okay? So that's just a little tip of how you might want to do it. Once you've done that, then obviously go to employer number 4, number 5, and so on. Work through your entire list. It's really up to you how many employers you go and talk to. You might decide to just talk to those 5 and then off you go, that's it. Or you might decide to spend the whole day there and visit as many employers as you can. Just also bear in mind that there might be some employers there that weren't on the list. Now, I know jobs fairs organisers do their very best to try and get confirmation from employers beforehand as to who's turning up and who isn't, but there's always some late additions. So there might be a couple of surprise employers there that weren't on the list, that you haven't done any research on, but they could be really interesting employers to go and talk to. So definitely have a look around and see who else is there. Okay. Now, talking to people, this is something that people often get quite nervous about, myself included. If I go to any sort of a networking event, it's the thing I think, oh my gosh, I've actually got to go and talk to people. What do I say? What do I do? So don't worry, this is something that lots of people get nervous about. Some tips that I would like to share with you, just things to try and remember. Eye contact, really important, okay? Try and maintain eye contact with people when you're talking to them, okay? And smile. Don't forget to smile, no matter how nervous you're feeling. Everybody loves a smile. If an employer sees you approaching them, come over to them with a smile and they will instantly smile back. Employers sometimes are just as nervous as you are. So if you come over to their stand looking really worried, then they're going to be a bit worried as well. Whereas you come over confidently, make really good eye contact, then they're going to respond in that way as well. So have a think about that non-verbal communication, because it is really important. Shaking hands. So often employers will shake hands with you. So don't be afraid of shaking hands with people. You might want to wait and see if someone offers to shake your hand before you reach out and shake theirs, but try not to get too stressed about this. It's just a simple handshake. If you are, and I know lots of people suffer from clammy hands, especially when they're nervous, make sure you've got a handkerchief or something with you to wipe your hands on if you are really worried about shaking someone's hand. But it really is just a formality. Not everyone does it, and you're not going to have to shake hands with everybody. But if an employer puts out their hand to shake with you, you want to make sure that you shake it back. So there we go. Of course, if culturally you don't shake hands, you can just explain that, and that is also very acceptable to do. Now, mindset, I think, is really important. So you might be nervous walking around this jobs fair. You might be nervous talking to employers, especially if it's those employers that you really want to work for. Just remember, it's not an interview, it is a conversation. So although a lot of employers do hire at job fairs, okay, so I would say, although it's not an interview, it's kind of your chance to impress them, okay? So, you want to keep that in mind, but it's not the same as an interview. It's much less formal. There's no scripted questions, for instance. And it's your chance to suss the employer out as much as they're sussing you out, okay? So they might be wanting to know about your experience and your skills and what you've got to offer them. But equally, this is your chance to interview them to find out why you should go and work for them. Because, they obviously are there because they want to hire people. So they are looking for candidates. They need you, possibly, more than you need them. So this is more of a, I guess, the power balance is a bit more equal in a jobs fair than it is in an interview, okay? There's no, you can walk away from the conversation if it's not going well, etc. So just bear that in mind and just try and maintain that kind of positive mindset throughout the day. Try not to get too nervous about it. And breathe. This is what I would say. If you are finding this really nerve-wracking, don't worry, you're not the only one. Some people find it really anxiety-provoking, going and talking to employers, walking around a crowded room, all those sorts of things. You need to make sure that you are comfortable throughout the day. So slow down. If you find yourself trying to do too much or being asked too many questions, then take a break. Try and stay calm, go outside, get some fresh air, see if you can find a quiet spot to sit down in. Don't worry, you are absolutely not the only one. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed at any point, you're not the only one feeling that way. Make sure that you look after yourself throughout the job fair and enjoy it. That's the thing. This is not a job interview. It's your chance to have a really good day and get everything you can out of this experience. Now, 3 things that I would recommend that you do in every conversation that you have with an employer. Okay, so number 1, make sure that you ask for a business card or an email address. So when you've spoken to someone, you want their contact details, okay? Because you are going to follow up with them, okay? So make sure, it doesn't matter how the conversation has gone, make sure that you ask them for a business card afterwards, or ask them if they have a contact email address or LinkedIn profile or whatever, so that you connect with them afterwards. Also, don't forget to say thank you. So no matter how long or short the conversation's been, make sure you thank them for their time, thank them for whatever insights they provided. That's just to be polite, really. Don't just walk off, just go cheers and walk off. Say thank you, shake their hand if it feels appropriate to do so. And then the big tip, make sure you make some notes before you move on to the next person. So if you've spoken to an employer and had a really good conversation and got lots of information, you want to write that down before you go talking to the next employer. Because believe me, it might feel fresh in your mind at the time, but later on in the day, after you've spoken to several employers, you might not remember what some of the employers have said. They might have given you information about where to go to find vacancies, and you might forget that. So honestly, make some notes of key things that they said, and also your impression of them as well, because sometimes we forget that and we can't get to the end of the day and you can't quite remember the conversation that you had at the beginning of the day. So do make notes after you've spoken to every person. Okay, we're on to the final bit now, after the job fair. Okay, so after you've been to the job fair, it is now time for action. Okay, so often people go, oh, the jobs fair is it, that's it. But no, the jobs fair is only the start of it. Okay, so this is what I would recommend you do after you have been to the job fair. First of all, if there are any job vacancies that you came across when you were at the jobs fair, then apply for them straight away. So if an employer has said, yep, send me your CV, or go online and complete this application form, or whatever it is, do that straight away. One of the reasons is there's going to be loads of other people there doing exactly the same thing. So you want to make sure that you get in before everyone else does, because sometimes they close vacancies early. Say they have 100 people all applying within the first few hours, they might then close it. So make sure that you are quick off the mark and you get that job application in. It also shows them how keen you are. Okay, it's a really, really good idea to do that straight away, especially if they've said, oh, send me your CV. If you send it later that day, then brilliant, rather than if you send it 3 days later. Do you see what I mean? It gives a very different impression. So submit that job application. I also recommend that you send a follow-up email to anyone that you've spoken to, and make this personal. Okay, don't just send out like the same email to everyone. So if you've had a conversation with somebody and you've managed to get their email address, then email them, and just a simple email to say, oh, it was great to meet you at the jobs fair, really enjoyed talking to you about blah blah blah, whatever you talked about. Obviously mention the thing that it was, and then follow up with something like, maybe ask them a question. Just say, oh, could you please tell me more about blah blah blah, or just say, I'm really keen to apply for a role within your organisation, and I'm going to follow the advice you gave me, or something. Do you know? So just really simple, couple of lines, that's all it needs to be. But it's a really, really good way of connecting with people after the jobs fair. I also recommend connecting with people on LinkedIn. So don't just send people random connection requests. If you have had a conversation with someone at the job fair, send them a connection request on LinkedIn, but put something in it, make it personal, and say, oh, I met you at the jobs fair. This is what we spoke about. It'd be lovely to connect with you on LinkedIn. So make sure you do that. And of course, follow any organisations that you're interested in if you're not already following them on LinkedIn, because they will start to post information about their vacancies, and you'll be able to see that in your feed if you are following them. Keep track of all your contacts. So make a big list of everyone that you spoke to at the jobs fair, and then keep track of whether you have followed up with them or not, whether they've then responded to you or not. It's a really good idea to keep that all in one place, whether you use a notepad or something in your phone or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever you want to do. Keep track of everything, and do follow up with people. If you ask someone a question and they don't respond, then try again. Send them another email a week later and say, oh, just checking in, do you have this information? Or see if there's somebody else that they would recommend that you speak to. So definitely keep track of that. And then finally, I would say one of the things that people don't often do, but it's really important, evaluate this whole experience. Okay, so reflect on the job fair. Was it useful to you? Did you get what you wanted out of it? Now, if you found that the jobs fair was really useful and it was, you've got loads of really great contacts and really good job opportunities, you might say to yourself, all right, I'm going to go to some more of these. So then you can go and find out when other jobs fairs are on. There are jobs fairs all over the place, and sometimes you have to look quite hard to find them. But look on Eventbrite, just do a Google search or ask around in your network to see if anyone knows of any other jobs fairs that might be of interest to you. Or if you found that actually the job fair was not a good use of your time, then that's an important learning point, that it might be that you've gone, actually, the sorts of jobs I'm looking for are not going to be at jobs fairs. This is not a good use of my time. So you might need to think about how else you might be able to find job opportunities. Obviously, jobs fairs is not the only way to find job opportunities. So do evaluate whether it's right for you and then plan your next step. Okay, so that's everything to do after you've attended the job fair. We've got a few minutes left for any questions. I haven't looked at the chat at all during this time, so let me see. Do we have any questions? And if not, if you want to put a question in the chat right now, you can do so. Okay, so there's a question here saying, can you share the list of companies participating at the jobs fair? Now, I'm assuming, therefore, you are referring to the So That Works jobs fair that's happening next week. Now, I would say if you don't have that list, I would contact So That Works. I would contact the organisers and see if they can share that with you. I don't have the list of the companies who are going to be at that particular jobs fair. But I'd say that goes for any type of jobs fair. If you don't have the list, do contact the organisers and ask them to send it to you. Oh, Joe has put the email address in. Thanks, Joe. That's in the chat there. So anyone who is planning to go to the So That Works jobs fair next week, you can email the organisers there. The email address is there in the chat. Actually, I've just thought, if you're watching this on the recording, you won't have access to the chat. So it is connect2work@southwark.gov.uk. Okay, I'm pretty sure if you went to, actually, no, I'm saying if you went to the So That Works website, it might be on there, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. Okay, question. Who represents the companies usually? Hiring managers or HR? Do you know what? It really depends. It really depends. It depends on how big or small the organisation is. It depends on how big or small the jobs fair is. Yeah, it could be any. There could be hiring managers. There could be HR people. You might have like marketing, communications people there. There might be people there who work in the team, might be team leaders. It really depends. It also depends, I think, on how actively they are recruiting as to who they send to the jobs fair as well. So yeah, that's wait and see, I guess. Go along and then see who's there. Okay, another question. Do we need to put date of birth, postcode, and pictures of ourselves on your CV? Wow, great question. Okay, date of birth, no. Postcode, no. Pictures, no. Do not include any of those things on your CV. They are not necessary at all. I'm going to give you a link in a minute to our website, where I've got lots of other information on CVs, LinkedIn, all the rest of it. So if there's anything that's come up from today about CVs or LinkedIn or even interview skills, then I'm going to share the link with you in a minute to our website. What sort of adjustments are made in the quiet hour? Good question. I've got to be honest with you, I've not actually been to one. So I would say that often what I've seen advertised is that usually they have a smaller number of people in that. So I think usually you have to book, I think, or maybe they just kind of only let a certain amount of people in. So there'd be less people there. Again, I would say contact the organizer and ask them. So if they're advertising a quiet hour, contact them and say, how does this work? What does the quiet hour mean? And actually ask them what that looks like. Okay, we are out of time. I'm conscious that everybody, I imagine you all got busy things to get to. So we're going to end the webinar there. I just want to share with you, as I said, on our website, we've got lots of articles. If you have any questions around doing your CV, LinkedIn profile, anything like that, then do visit the website. I think Joe is going to put the link in the chat, so if you want to head over there, you can do so. So anything that's come up there today, you might be able to find information on. If you are interested in finding out more, do follow us on social media, or if you have any other questions, do email us. So info@careerology.org. If anything's come up today, you've got any questions and you want answers to them, then please do email us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, usually the same day. If you email us today, we'll get back to you straight away with any answers to those queries. And that's it. You will receive a copy of this recording later on today. You will receive an email from us with the recording in there. If it should arrive by the end of the day, if it has not arrived for any reason, check your junk folder. And if it's not there, please do contact me because something will have gone wrong somewhere and I can resend it out to you. But hopefully that should land in your inbox later on today. Right, okay, I think that's everything. I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for attending. Best of luck if you are going to the jobs fair next week or any other jobs fairs that you might attend in future. I hope this has been helpful. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.